I will say that I'm on YouTube, so I may hear both. My apologies, but I'll make sure that it doesn't come through on this end.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
does YouTube take a second to start appearing?
hmm,
Is there a delay? All
you,
right, maybe not. Maybe.
are you?
Oh,
Oh,
interesting. Okay, I do have it up, but the live one that was scheduled doesn't look like it came up.
oh,
So this came up under the looking at newer features of Misty.
no. Jesus. The
Professional podcast over
God
here, folks. Hopefully, at least the audio is a little bit
damn
better.
it.
I'll try to keep it closer to my mouth this week as well. I think that may have been the
Um,
problem last week.
let's see.
And
Live
the AC is
stream.
off.
Stream settings. Um, what? Seem to have no settings on in Riverside,
Oh, to change the
but
title?
but in
Yeah, so there was like
uh,
a live one queued, but I don't think that
yeah.
queued off. And then it looks like you've reused the title from an older one. There is someone in the chat. We've got Adam Vorlon,
So
I
there's
believe. Good evening, chaps. Yes.
hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Not the end of the world.
studio.
And apologies, folks. I just had a shower, which is why my hair is all slicked back and my skin is red as heck.
Okay, so live. Huh. Well, that's did is now not the time when I said I was going live now, and
Indeed.
yet, well, that is frustrating. Let's delete that one.
This is a peek behind the curtain, folks. This is
Delete
how the magic
forever,
is made.
and then I'll rename this one to be Matt and Ryan really have a chat here. All right. Okay. And then hopefully in YouTube. Okay. Looks like that's really working.
All right, it's working.
I don't know. I don't understand what happened.
Technology.
Yeah.
What was the phrase? We shouldn't have made Sand think. Should never have taught Sand to think. So
What's that?
listen, there was an event yesterday from a technology company
Yes.
that you may that you may follow.
Yes.
I may follow. Rarity, I guess, for me is that I watched at least half of WWDC's keynote yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
which it was pretty long. It felt like way longer than I
Oh.
expected. I don't know if you watched it, but the opening airplane sequence was kind of interesting. What did you think of that?
I did see that. Yes.
Are we at the point
Uh,
now where we need the celebrity intro in tech? I guess is kind of what I'm thinking. Is do we need like that Marvel esque kind of preamble?
what do you mean?
Okay, so it's a developers conference, right? So
Right.
the audience watching this, presumably, and this may be a false synopsis or maybe a bad conclusion, but should be mostly developers. So the people
Right.
interested in this content are going to be developers. Now the keynote's a little bit different, and that the Gen Pop will be out there watching it, trying to figure out what's coming out, what's new, that kind of thing. I think developers really could give.
Hmm.
They just don't care about
Right.
people jumping from planes and Craig Ferrighi and stuff like that, just
Yeah.
doing parkour in order to get from one area of the building to the other with a body double that obviously wasn't him. I don't know. And I get it. It was fun. It certainly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about it. So listen, it was certainly memorable. But I don't feel like, in the same way that it was memorable, that it added any utility to what they were talking about at all. Is
Yeah.
how I felt.
I didn't understand why it needed to be there.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, I mean, they're having fun. That's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not centered either. We'll get over here. But I
Hmm.
just don't feel like it really added much to the show at all. In fact, I felt like it was more of a detractor or distractor
Right.
And I was thinking more about that than I was about the tech, which tells me that it's probably not a good mix for me. That
Right.
being said, I think that if the audience for WWDC is now expanding, which I think it is, and that it's less as a dev conference and more of a roadmap, I guess, like a feature crawl, feature walk for people to know what's coming up, for investors, investment
Mm-hmm.
people, people interested in the performance of the company, sure. But I don't
Yeah.
like even just internally. If we were to do this at a company that I may or may not have worked for in the past, who did a lot of mobile unboxed events, or perhaps a company I'm currently working for, I feel like it looks like a waste of budget, basically. I'm
Yeah.
trying to say this the nicest way, but it does. Like, if I'm a shareholder looking at that, I'm thinking, how much money have we just sunk down the drain that we're not going to get back in developer goodwill? Because that is the goal of this conference for me,
Right.
as an investor, as a former investor, let's say, in Apple. I don't hold any Apple stock at this point in time. I would say it feels like a waste of money.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah. Yeah, the
I don't know.
parkour.
I mean,
There's someone in the chat just yelling parkour all caps, but yes, exactly. There was certainly parkour.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't see the need for that. But that said, I mean, they got plenty of money,
True. True. Okay, so you're
and
saying this is a drop in a bucket, so it
I
shouldn't
mean,
matter.
it is a a tiny fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the drop in the bucket.
I think if you work for Apple and maybe they're doing like the return to office thing, you could say like perhaps if you spent this budget elsewhere, I wouldn't need to go back into the office, maybe. But yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. So as a shareholder, we shouldn't be concerned about like 0.1% spent on the video budget for WWDC.
Yeah, no,
It
zero
just
point
looked
zero zero
really
zero zero 0.001%.
no, it can't be that small. It looked really expensive. I don't know. Like getting up into a plane, maybe the plane was on the ground.
They weren't in a plane.
I
There
think they
was no
were. I
plane
think they were.
involved.
They could have been on the ground, but it did look like a plane. At least it looked like the fuselage of a plane. How's that?
Okay, sure.
It looked like the cargo area. So maybe they're out in Moffett Field shooting out of the back of something
Yeah,
on the ground on the tarmac. Okay.
but no executives left the ground in a little plane.
Uh, okay. All right. Some of those
I
stunts look like.
I don't know. I
You're
don't
saying
think
none of
so.
these people really jumped out of that plane, Matt
No,
Williams?
no.
Also,
Um,
I didn't like the way that the parachutes became the intro to the thing.
hmm
I actually found it a little bit harder to read as a result. I know they were
Yeah,
trying to be cute. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the intro. All right,
yeah,
so after the intro, they rolled right into the updates, and
yeah.
they came out swinging. There was a lot of stuff they talked about. The main thing for me were the Mac OS updates as a Mac OS user, but I'm
hmm
sure I don't know. From your end, are you excited about ChatGPT being part of, I think, Siri, at least? In some
Well,
cases,
so
it could be Siri.
I saw one of the kind of I missed a lot of it
Right.
live, so I watched a few of the kind of rehashes of it, and one of the first ones I saw said that it's doing a bunch of AI things, and all of it is ChatGPT.
Oh,
I
all
thought,
of it is.
well, that would suck.
Right.
Um,
It would actually.
and then when looking at it again, it's like, oh no, no, no. A lot of this is all on device. It's then some of it going into their cloud, and then if you really want to, for some types of generation, that can optionally go off to ChatGPT. It's like,
Well,
okay,
yeah, they
that's a
mentioned
little
some
bit
sort
better.
of private cloud thing. I wasn't able to
Yeah,
understand the delineation between on-device, ChatGPT, and whatever this. I think they said private
I mean, it's
computing.
kind of like
Sorry,
the
not private
third
cloud.
tier of. I don't think they're focused for their smaller models that they are building
Hmm.
and then hosting on.
Private computing? Is that right?
Um,
Oh, you got a visitor.
I thought so.
Maybe not.
There's just a noise somewhere.
Phantom.
Um,
Phantom noise. There,
I
there did seem to be three tiers, right? Maybe I
yeah,
got that wrong.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
And for generative AI stuff on for that needs a big that really big model,
Right.
then that's where ChatGPT and OpenAI come in.
Now,
So not yeah,
yeah.
not as uh important.
I,
Um
I see. I had the opposite opinion. So to me, all of these photos updates that they're talking about looked amazing, but my real concern, and listen, I don't take photos of anything too salacious or anything like that, but photos of my
Right.
family, that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily want to go out to some private computing device, regardless of they're saying it's trusted from like boot all the way up. Amazing. This
Mhm.
sincerely sounds awesome. Don't necessarily want to have my private photos up there.
But it
You know,
sounded like none of that goes to
none of it does.
ChatGPT.
With ChatGPT, I get. Okay,
Um, and depending on the device you have,
right.
very little of it goes up to their cloud.
Oh, it depends on
A
device
lot of
power.
it. I
Okay,
mean,
I missed that part about device power. Okay,
as long as you've got a recent, the last couple of versions of the phone
right.
or the last, well, since the M1 iPad,
iPad. Yeah.
then those are going to be on device. Is that as how I
Okay.
read through that?
Okay, because some of the photo features look really interesting to me. Like,
They're fantastic. Yeah.
image generation is cool, but I feel like the opposite is really interesting
Yeah.
to me. That categorization and automatic tagging and
Yeah.
understanding that these are dogs. Like, we're already sort of there. It's not great. Things that iOS thinks are dogs are like a bear that I may have seen on a
Right.
trail or something like that. Like, it does get confused fairly often in terms of like the replays, especially when it goes to the memories, and I take a lot of like vertical video, unfortunately, and it will crop out the bit. Having just seen some of these at lunch, trying to
Right.
compare what I saw in WWC compared to the current images app, and it does have a lot of like once you've seen what things could be, there are a lot of gaps basically in the functionality that I want. So I'd love to see those get better because
Right.
they're honestly like they're smile inducing, especially if you're looking at these memories with a partner. Like you have a child, I've some
Hmm.
dogs, when you're thinking about memories and how old they were when, like a year ago or 2 years ago
Right.
or 3 years ago, those memories coming back. This is a real poignant kind of moment, and if you can make it better, because when it doesn't work, it's kind of sad. Like, oh, I wish you could see the child in this photo because that was kind of the point, but
Hmm.
they're on the bottom and they've cropped to the top, that kind of stuff. But I would love to see more of this, and this is one of the things that I really liked about Google Photos. And again, I hate to be
Hmm.
speaking bad about Google every week, but Google Photos these days doesn't have the wow factor that I think
Right.
the memories function does in Apple Photos, and I can't wait to see more of it because I do
Yeah.
take a lot of photos with my phone at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always like just on searching. I mean, searching
Right.
for
Oh,
somebody just the other day was we were talking about something that their kid was doing, and I was like, oh, I've got that same photo or same, oh God, and I can't even remember what it was now, but I did a quick search for Stella doing whatever the thing was,
mhm.
and it like popped up that, and it like knew it was Stella, and and she was doing this particular activity, and I was able to ask for that, and it resulted in the right photo showing up, which was amazing.
That is really cool.
And being able to go, but that said, you also ask for some things, and the right photo doesn't come up. So anything they can do to make that experience better, I mean, it's a good start now, and it just needs to be better, and that'll be better.
Someone in the chat said that they thought WWDC this year was lukewarm. I will die on
Uh,
this hill, but I did not think it was lukewarm. In fact, the part that really put a smile on my face was the freaking calculator for iPad. And I say this like, one, it's a bit of a meme. So they finally released a
yeah,
calculator app. I was happy because I've legit
right,
tried to roll out iPads to a bunch of executives, and they do ask for the calculator. I'm
right.
sorry, it's gonna happen. But when the but wait, there's more section where they were drawing and changing the angles
Hmm.
specifically, not only was I smiling, but my partner thought this was amazing as well. The
Yeah,
live math feature, I thought was really a wow moment. So I don't
I
necessarily agree with
was
you that the whole thing was lukewarm, but there were certainly some moments that I thought were wow moments.
now obviously a lot of that is, I mean, a lot of the like demos are they're pre-recorded,
Right.
and so but still I feel like that demo was somebody actually writing.
Yes.
Where did they find, how did was getting the role to be that level director or whatever for
Right.
that feature, did that require having the neatest, most amazing handwriting for writing math equations? I mean, her handwriting was gorgeous. It's
Well,
like
well,
super clear.
two things.
Oh, but that was that the making
Yeah,
every all your handwriting
yes,
better. Yes.
yes, and. So yeah, I'm glad you caught that part because I was thinking the same thing. Like this is really clean handwriting, but when you watch the demo, the person writing was pressing really hard on the screen too, as if they
Oh yeah.
wanted it to look clean, and they were writing a little bit
Yeah.
more slowly. But the
Yeah.
combination of those two definitely made the
Yeah.
handwriting look very neat. And
Right.
you got it. I was thinking like, wow, they're really taking a long time to write this out. And then later on, I realized because when she wrote it down, the glyphs, like the letters changed just a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
imperceptibly, and I thought that was a mistake because I was like, hey, if I
Yeah.
wanted to write the E lazily, you should show it to me lazily. But then I realized, no, actually, in a math equation, like one of the things my profs used to complain about all the time was that my variables were sometimes indecipherable, and they could get it by context, but when you're showing the work, it's like I don't really know what's going on in this space. I thought that was amazing. The other thing was that drawing of, I think it was the ping pong table, was very
Hmm.
accurate. Like,
Yeah.
so like the text was one thing, but the ping pong drawing was way too
Now,
accurate.
I think that could have been a little bit better in that, you've got all these
More believable.
equations.
Yep.
They should understand that that dotted line is the path of the ball,
Right.
and it should just move the ball along the path
Oh.
to help visualize
Oh.
the
Oh. I get it.
equation
You're at like the
rather
next
than
step.
doing the diagram of one of the values
I
later on.
I thought the diagram was amazing, but I agree
I
with you
thought that
that
was
the
good too. Yeah.
practical implication is something
Compared to
else.
my old Casio graphing calculator, it was amazing.
You got it. I was thinking about the TI-83 the
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
time. Like, what does this mean for the TI-83 is exactly what I was thinking.
Right.
And then, of course, my brain, you were thinking about like live diagrams and what that looks like. And then the
Hmm.
next step for me is like, where's the programming language? Is there a
Hmm.
Swift for calculators? There was another thing, like, I hadn't heard of Swift Playgrounds before. I don't know if you had, but that actually
Hmm.
looked like a pretty cool app, in
It's
fact.
a neat little.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
I'm
won't argue with the chat.
not.
That
I
is
mean,
that is fair. I mean, just for those viewing, the chat says like it's fair. You're
I
excited about the calculator. I wasn't so excited.
I'm not.
That is fair. I am excited about the calculator.
So I mean, I don't see. I mean, generally the calculator is like, okay, yeah. I mean, I already use pcalc on
Right.
my iPad and iPhone, and so I didn't see any reason to
Right.
get excited about that. What I was excited about was the handwriting and
Right.
how it got kind of autocorrect, and it was just beautiful handwriting, which is, that was the impressive part to me. Recognizing that it's part of an equation and then updating the answer based on that was nicely done in a way that I hadn't seen other, calculator or similar types of things do it before. So that
Right.
was great.
It looked like new
At
or
the
novel.
actual the fact that there's a calculator app, uh,
I
so what?
again, I will die on this hill. I did think it was it's exciting. The other thing to me, and I'm not a Vision Pro user, but what I thought was kind of cool, but also one of those like, why wasn't this launched as a feature in the first place? Is some of the stuff about where the control center would be, or how to get there with different gestures.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of it felt like an afterthought. Basically, if you've been using this device prior to launching this device,
Right.
you'd have realized that this is important. The other one was having a more high definition screen. I don't think Apple realized how popular having a private high def VR screen would be for people. Like honestly, people are using the Vision Pro as a separate monitor. That seems to be
Right.
the
Right.
use case that's really popular these days. It saddened me to hear that they could only support 4K right now when I heard about it. It
Mm-hmm.
further saddened me to see that like their announcement was that you could add a wider curved screen that was the equivalent of, I think it was three 4Ks or maybe two 4K screens.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was three. This should not be a feature that we have to highlight at an event like this. I
Mm.
realize why they do it because you're thinking about a different virtual device display,
Right.
and that means that you need to change your software, et cetera, et cetera. Again, both of these features felt like they should have been done in the beginning, and I feel like it should be unlimited. They mentioned foveated rendering at least twice during this part, and because it's foveated, it should mean that I can have unlimited screen real estate. And
Mm-hmm.
I realize that maybe I'm asking for the world, and maybe too much is too much. It's not going to
Well,
be
that's no.
easily usable.
I saw
Hmm.
a demo today for some web browser for the Vision Pro
Okay.
that talked about having basically all your tabs on separate screens that are all in front of you. And so it's like dozens and dozens, a potentially unlimited number of
Now
screens,
that scares me. Okay.
and you're just kind of looking around at
Exactly.
all your things. Um, uh, and so that, I mean, that's taking that a lot further.
Right. I also didn't hear because I was kind of hoping that this wouldn't happen, and it didn't, which I'm happy. Is that I've forgotten the Microsoft Windows 11 feature where you can take snapshots, basically video snapshots of the desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Apple did not go down any path like this, which I thought was
Right,
interesting. Like a time machine for your activity was
right,
not announced because I thought of all the people to announce a competitor to this product
yeah,
that Windows 11 has, Apple could do it, but no, there's no
yeah,
tit for tat kind of announcement there, which is good
right,
because the response on the Windows 11 side has largely been negative. Even though I think this function is really really cool and would love to see it, I don't think having it go to Microsoft is the best implementation. So I'm waiting to see if there's some sort of offline, secure, I don't know, enclave way to do this where you could
right,
actually get, show, like, I'm sorry, I was having a beer while computing. What did I purchase last night? Something like
right,
that. Like,
right,
I
yeah.
know that's terrible, but like, can we just quickly scroll through the last 3 hours
Yeah,
between maybe 9 p.m. to 12 midnight kind of thing?
yeah. I don't. Microsoft got a lot of backlash for that feature.
Right.
I don't. I think a lot of it's not deserved,
Unwarranted. Yeah, I
unwarranted.
think you're
Yeah.
right. I think you're right.
Um. I mean, it's like. I mean, Clippy has always been the thing that people make fun of. Yet that. I mean, and it was gradually added to lots of different apps
Right.
after that, and it ended up being really useful in a lot of cases.
Right. So there were cases.
So it was purely about how they how they released or how they
Yes.
announced the feature rather than the
Yes.
feature.
Yes, agreed. And I've definitely made a resume with Clippy in my past. This is
Yeah.
I am of that age where it's like it looks like you're writing a resume. Would you like a template? And sure as heck I did. Having a template for a
Yeah.
resume is handy. And I wouldn't know. I think this is back in Office 2000, maybe 2003. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't know where to find the resume
Right.
template in here. And this is just before the ribbon bar where things got really
Right.
confusing. So yeah, Clippy wasn't that bad. I think Microsoft Bob was actually quite horrendous, but yeah,
Mm,
we'll get there.
I mean, I think even I mean, I wasn't a user of Bob,
Neither was I.
but it was very much like another tool that I did use on the Commodore 64, which
Okay.
had that same
Right.
environment. I mean, it was pretty much dead on the same product. Um, and I mean, I found that very useful as a I don't know how old I was, 8 years old, 9 years, 10 years old,
Right.
when that came out, and it was great for that kind of environment. Now you're not going to use it as a business user, I hope, but
I mean, you never know.
who knows?
I think around this time there was a DuckTales video game that came out. Funnily enough, just
Hmm.
just sort of random. And Scrooge McDuck, who you were at the time, had a console like his business that very much looked like this. So it was skeuomorphic. Sorry, there was an
Mm-hmm.
old school stock ticker, activities and things like that, just to get into the game, that sort of thing.
Right.
But there was also Neopets around this time, which was very popular in Japan, which had a very similar kind of interface. You had your pet, your
Mm-hmm.
mail, your web browsing. It was kind of like a portal to the internet. And the question is, are we getting back to that sort of skeuomorphic or neomorphic kind of portal to the
Mm.
internet? And what's that going to look like? Look, again, if Google's dead for search results, what is the new portal to the internet? So increasingly, it's becoming
Right.
OpenAI, which, I mean, sure. Like if you go to the internet, maybe you're trying to find out something, and OpenAI is where you want to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're searching for things. I totally get it. But the opposite of this is like, no, you've got a task to do on your computer. What app will you use to start those tasks? Is it the start bar? Is it mission control? What is that? What does that information or sorry interface look like prior to getting information or creating or what have you? And this isn't solved. I'm super interested in this
Mm-hmm.
human interface design element, like be it Envision OS or something else. What does that start screen look like? What is your start menu, so to speak? of starting your
Right.
computer. Because I don't think a desktop full of icons is the best way to show people what they can or should do with their computer. And I really don't
Right.
think the start menu full of icons helps either.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, as usual, I have no I have no recommendations, just questions and opinions. But I really would like to see what the future holds in terms of that portal to the internet. And I feel like, sorry, this is a bit of a segue. I feel like Apple's trying to say Siri is what they want, so it's like that voice UI mixed with, because they're now basically the Siri interfaces, instead of being that little, there was like a circle with some gradients
Yeah.
in there, it's going to be around the screen, will kind of pulsate. It's
Right.
part of the OS now. And I think we're like voice UI is, for me, it's like that third hand. There's something about being able to speak to your computer and have it answer you or do the thing that you want that's
Right.
poignant. And I think scratching that itch is going to help us. I,
I
I
I
want
mean,
to
the
see some more
series stuff that they showed,
mm-hmm,
it has the potential. Who knows?
potential.
I mean, we're still a few months out.
Yep.
Has the potential of being the first of the voice assistants that doesn't suck.
So I
Um,
recently had to unplug Amazon so I can say Alexa as much
uh,
as I want in the house, because it was honestly useless. But on
yeah.
top of useless, it was starting to play ads, and not just
Oh yeah.
randomly, which is great. Sorry, there's some sarcasm there. Also, it would give like weather notifications and alerts, which I mean, sort of handy.
Yeah.
But often after asking, it would be like, "Oh, by the way, I found some stuff in the store. Would you like to purchase it?" And the answer is absolutely not. Do I
Yeah.
ever want this type of solution
Yeah.
to ever appear? So I don't plug it, and I've been
I've
using it
often
for
asked
almost 10 years.
for I've asked for like what is the temperature,
Right?
and it says gives me the answer and says I can alert you if there's a storm
Yeah.
coming. It's like, do you would you like me to turn it out? No, I
No,
don't.
no,
I
no, no.
just want to
I've
ask you for the.
okay. So I said yes.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely the wrong response. Just to to double down on what you're saying, like you were right in saying no, because it's completely useless. There's a weather alert in Vancouver. It's about to rain. Like I mean, I'm it is definitely raining.
Yeah.
Or if it's like a windstorm or whatever, and they tell you a lot, like way too much info, way too
Yeah.
often, and they'll just alert you in the middle of a TV show or what have you.
Yeah.
Like, hey Matt, can I interrupt you with a fact? Is way different than, hey Matt, like high voice, like it's about to
Right.
start raining. Like that's cool. Could you please shut up? Like, and
Yeah.
it's so hard to get them to listen once they've started, and it's really just they're all bad touches, right? If you think about sales, like a lot of times we talk about good touch, bad touch. So when you talk to a
Right.
client, you want the takeaway to be positive. And I feel like every time I talked to Alexa, the takeaway was negative. So all bad
Yeah.
touches, which meant for like, what have you done for me lately? Meant that it was kind of not much. So I pulled it out. So I used to use Bixby, Alexa, and Google. And I hate to say Google's kind of won out, but at this point in time, I feel like even Google's going to go, and we're going to
Yeah.
bring in just Siri in the house, because like this is where I'm at. I'm kind of fed up with all of them. Having worked
Yeah.
like pretty close to some voice assistant stuff at Samsung, like I think we're at the point now where we're burnt out on voice assistants that are useless, and the enshittification has started. Sorry to use this word yet again, but like we're trying to capitalize on the platform that we've got installed, because Google had lost leaders with their
Yeah.
speakers. I'm sure Amazon did as well during their sales, and everyone has one of these devices. But at the end of the day, if it's not helping you, then it opens up the market for someone like
Right.
an Apple to come in later and be like, "Oh, look at
Yeah.
this cool thing you got going on here. What if I rub some AI on it and call it useful now? Would people buy it?" And
Yeah.
I think people will. Be it
Yeah. I mean, I have had to train myself on how to use
right,
the voice assistants
right.
because I mean, I know the right, I mean, really I have one Echo that's the larger studio one, which has the better speakers and
That's what
the
I had. Yeah.
yeah, and that's in my kitchen, and it's used for two main things.
Temperature.
For my daughter to play, whatever random song.
Okay.
It could be soundtrack, Frozen, or other songs that we hear millions of times,
Yep.
or Peanut Butter Jelly Time, which
Yep.
I introduced her to, and I regret it. Or It's Raining Tacos, or all the other great songs. Or it's used to start a 5 minute timer for the oatmeal in the morning.
Gotcha.
Um, and when I do that, I have to make sure when I want to know how much time is left, I have to say list my timers rather than what are my timers, because what are my timers will restart the timer.
What?
And it's done that switched like a few months ago, and we've never been able to get that turned off.
Oh, that is awful. That
Yeah.
is awful. The timer thing specifically is something I use all the time as well. So you mentioned
Yeah.
temperature, which I thought was going to be one of your use case. So what temperature is it now? Great. The is
Yep.
it going to rain on Alexa? It was actually pretty good because it would tell you roughly the time it was going to
Mm.
rain, which actually worked out pretty well. I don't know if we're I don't know close enough to the airport where it actually
Mm.
made sense. Not bad. The timer thing, though, being able to set a timer with the fewest words possible, like "Hey Matt, 15-minute timer," is like
Right.
exactly what I want, and not all these devices do it. I use my watch now for a lot of the sort of Siri commands,
Yeah.
and it's still not great. Just to set a
Yeah.
timer or set an alarm, and they get
Set
confused
timer
between
does
timers
great.
and it does okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Timer,
That
alarm, it gets confused about the two, or maybe I get confused about the two. But like at the end of the day, please just do what I said. Use these words
yeah.
interchangeably because I
Yeah.
couldn't care less which is the one that you want. I just want to know either
Yeah.
at this time or after this amount of minutes.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, all this to say, I feel like adding Gen AI to Siri will, as you mentioned, make it the
Yes.
forerunner in
And the
voice
whole
assistants.
being like the couple examples that were in there about uh this meeting has changed. Will I be able to attend the meeting and attend my daughter's uh recital? And
Right,
it looks up the data in the PDF that's in the
right.
message thread to know what time it is and where it is and where you are now and how long it's going to take you to get to um, how long it's going to take you to get to that location. And yes,
Yes.
you will be able to um, you will be
To
able to
make it,
go to
yeah,
this meeting.
this
Yeah.
almost, or maybe it's pseudo agentic functionality is
Hmm.
exactly, yeah, what I was well
Right.
by as well. If you can do one thing then the other conditionally based on the
Right.
first result, and based on those results figure out Matt's travel
Right.
time, that is next level, because that's like
That's great.
I would hire someone to do this, like legitimately,
Yep.
if this is a task, like in terms of logistics or what have you.
Right.
This is really functional. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. The other one was, and I only saw this later on The Verge. I think I missed this part. Was the generative image part that they're doing? Did you happen to catch that demo? Because I saw a screenshot, but I didn't see how it was actually done. Was that done through text that you could
Which
actually?
one?
So they generated a woman with a cape, I believe, saying that they are very handy or very good. It's in that Verge.
Oh, as the yeah the
Did it come up?
but
Yeah.
it wasn't like a photorealistic
No, no, it was
person,
more
was it?
like
No,
it
it
kind
was
of
a
looked like it was animated sort of
yeah,
style. Yeah. Okay.
yes, and that was there's features in all the like all the Apple Officey kind of apps
Okay.
where you could and one of the examples was in some note taking tool and they had an image they had drawn of some kind of building in
Oh.
India and they were able to circle it and replace it with a generated image, which was pretty cool. And there were a lot of that type of feature throughout on all the different platforms.
Gotcha. Now the other was the look and feel changes for iOS 18. I really don't like this feature.
Which
I
one?
hate it. The customizable icon colors and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
no,
I
they look
really,
goofy.
the color themes looks awful to me. I get
Yeah,
why. I understand like pinning things on certain area of the page so you can see more of your background and stuff like that. But
right.
it this is the actual problem with Android. When I pick up somebody else's Android phone and I think it looks like garbage, this is
Yeah,
most of the time it's because they've come up with this theme that is just awful to use.
yeah.
And I feel like this isn't an Apple thing. This is they're listening to the users. We've gone through almost 20
Yep.
iterations of this operating system. Finally, we've got the customization. I think they've done it the right way. I still think they could have waited longer because it looks
Mhm.
like hot garbage. It is
I mean,
so
being able to
ugly.
move, having icons wherever you want, okay, that's great. I don't know if it needed a section in a keynote to a week
Not at
long
all.
event. Um, but I mean, that definitely points. I don't think developers who are the target of original target of this event are excited about that part. that is definitely for
Well, the devs are going
the
to be angry. Can you
the
imagine if you have to make a frickin' icon that can allow
oh
any
yeah,
color you want into it,
yeah,
including black as an accent? And like, okay, what
yeah,
do I do with my icon? It was a black icon with a black accent. This
yeah,
looks terrible.
yeah.
Anyway, I get why
I
they
mean,
did
that
it.
definitely shows that this event, at least this, this small part of WWDC, is meant not for the developers, but for the general
Right.
consumer.
I'm really
Um,
hoping the other shoe does not drop, which is those custom fonts, specifically the handwriting fonts in Android that make so that plus the custom icons make Android look like the
yeah.
I'm gonna rant a little bit here, but like Mandrake circa 2002, like GNOME One kind of
Yeah.
awful UI that the open source community thought was amazing because we were like
Yeah.
strapped or like in the
Yeah.
Windows 95, 98, 2000 era, there wasn't a lot of customization. Linux
Right.
had it, and it looked so much worse for it, unfortunately, because people didn't
Yeah.
know what they were doing, and it just looked like hot garbage. And this feels like it's gonna look like hot garbage as soon as they get
Yeah.
custom fonts. It's all over. I'm done. I've
Yeah.
thrown in the towel. I'm gonna Ubuntu phone all the way. Because I feel like GNOME 3, on the other hand, has come full circle where they're like opinionated. On Ubuntu, at least, you can't
Right.
freaking move the taskbar, which people hate, but there's some opinions. There's a reason for this. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't need that on iOS. Now, one more thing here, and I hate to pat myself in the back, but RCS being part of this platform is something I've been waiting for a long time.
What?
RCS, yes, Rich Communication
What's
Services. Okay, quick history lesson. So in 2016, Samsung bought a company called NewNet Communication Technologies, which I know because it was in Nova Scotia, Canada, specifically in Bridgewater, just outside of Halifax, which I've got some history with. When we acquired them, I think just as we acquired them, the our office, which was an R&D office, we were asked like, is there anything we could use this for? Specifically, we were launching Samsung Pay at the time. I looked into it. I thought there might be some interesting stuff, like if Pay's on different platforms, that kind of thing would be really handy. For what we were doing at the time, it looked like a way to extend an olive branch to get two disparate messaging services to talk to each other. So that's like iMessage
mm-hmm.
and whatever Samsung was doing at that time. I think it was Samsung might have been text or something like that. It had a different name. These days, so listen, that was we're 2024 now, so 8 years ago is when this happened. RCS has gone through a long slog to get here. I think Google now supports RCS as of 2 years ago. Apple has not, but it looks like Android does.
Mm.
Samsung definitely does. If we can get Apple to do it, we may be in what's the combination of like green and blue? Is it seafoam green or something like that? We may there may be a new text bubble color where it's kind of like bridging the gap a little bit. I'd love to see that specifically if I could send it. All I want to do is send a photo to the contact that's in green text without paying a lot of money,
Right.
especially if I
Right.
cross the border. This can like I can send two or three of them, and this could add up to $100 easy just
Wow.
by sending text messages, and it's terrible. And I don't know if it's because I take raw photos by default on my phone, and like that adds to
Mm-hmm.
it. It's probably I'm holding it wrong, but at the end of the day, legitimately, I prefer to have a blue text conversation with people,
Right.
which is really sad to say, but this is where we are at this point in time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that kind of like
I
rich
did
person
not
or whatever, but
see.
yeah.
I did not even notice that.
Okay, yeah, this is one of those things that's important to me. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, RCS support is supposed to come
Right.
in iOS 18. Are you interested in the Apple TV features at all? Speaking of the developer conference with Apple
So
Plus
that
in it for
was.
some
I mean,
reason.
it looked like they. I mean, the the big thing that I noticed was
Hmm.
the
Insight.
being able to see more details. Basically, the feature from Amazon Prime, which
Absolutely.
was kind of the feature that they got from the Kindle, where you can
Oh,
like look at the in the on
oh,
the Kindle in
yeah. You
any
can pull
book
up details.
you
Yeah.
pull up details and where else or tell me about this character within the book,
Right.
and then they applied it to Prime Video, and then 3-4 years later we've got it on Apple TV. But I thought the the interesting take on this the was it Nolan, the Chris Nolan mode or something like
Christopher
that,
Nolan.
where because I can go back and get the automatic subtitles to understand what the hell did that person just say,
It,
because I can't understand anything in these movies.
that part, I didn't think I'd like it, but yeah, I went to
Yeah.
resume a film. It rewind it a little bit and context based turned on subtitles just for a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
that yeah, the Chris
Uh,
Nolan mode
Yeah.
is pretty sweet actually
Yeah.
because I get
Is it was that what did they refer to it as that?
they didn't, but I
Oh,
love
okay.
yeah we can attribute this to you. I
I
love
no no
that
no.
thing because his
I
movies
saw it
are specifically like the ones that I get lost in.
I saw it in the overview video of the keynote
Gotcha,
by Tyler Stallman.
gotcha. I haven't seen his yet. I should.
Okay.
I like his. Maybe it's because
Yeah.
he's Canadian, but I like his approach to stuff.
But one thing that I mean somebody mentioned earlier is like I watched WWDC and it was lukewarm.
Right,
Well, you didn't you watched this, small portion. You watched an hour and a half of it.
right,
Uh and it's an event that lasts for a whole week.
right.
And there were a bunch of I saw some neat stuff about doing Swift on embedded devices, like on
Ooh,
it
nice,
looked like an Arduino
nice.
running Swift. And so there's all sorts of other neat things that are coming out each day.
We're in a
And
very
then there was
weird era for transpilation or transpiling like that. I'm
mhm,
not sure if that's what they're doing, but AI plus
mm,
transpiling is very interesting to me.
mhm.
That'd be amazing.
Um,
Swift on
I I
Android.
like the kind of the Swift assist mode in Xcode.
Right.
So that was looked great. Um, One of the other things I thought was really neat was the text input to Siri. So right now with Siri
Oh, I might have missed that one.
on the Mac,
Yep.
you can switch it to either be voice input or text input.
Yeah, if you hit
And
the
then
key on your keyboard kind of thing. Yeah.
once you have it on text, you can't like switch back and forth. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
at least I haven't noticed that to be true. And apparently now that is a thing. You can talk to Siri and then do something with text, just typing it in, which is sometimes useful. And then related to that was just the responding to messages if you've got your AirPods on with just the that and that
Right.
was great. I mean, especially their example of do you want to hear from Gam Gam on the elevator? It's like, oh,
But on the other hand, okay, so I get it. It's just so when you see that commercial, you're thinking, I'm the person in the middle shaking my
mm-hmm,
head. My first thought was, if I'm the person beside that person shaking their head, I'm thinking that they're shaking their head at me. Like, I can't believe this person is so close to me.
oh my god, I got
I don't
this.
like this. I want to get the heck out of the elevator, is
I'm
what I
standing
thought.
next to this idiot again.
Yeah, they're talking
Yeah,
to themselves.
it's like
I'd rather like
the
if I could tap my phone or something, just tap on my pants and somehow the vibration like knew it or something like that. Something way less obvious than because he did a full on head
yeah
shake.
yeah.
Like I thought maybe you could do something like this, or maybe just a quick nod, but it was a full on head shake that everybody in that elevator definitely saw, but pretended they didn't because you could see them. They're all kind of looking the other way. There's no way no one noticed that, or would there's no way
Yeah,
no one would notice that in an elevator because that person was tall and they definitely like imagine you, Matt, as a large person in an elevator.
right.
People are gonna notice you're there. If you're shaking your head, they're gonna think all these
Yeah
people are in my way. They should get
yeah.
out so I can have the elevator to
But
myself.
is this also going to be, or is this going to be like there's that transition to where people had Bluetooth headsets in their ears and start talking, having
Right,
conversations as they're walking down the street, which
right.
just 5 years before you would have thought, that person's just crazy
Or they're having a bad day. But
because
yeah, I definitely have thought about this a lot. Like
yeah,
and it's even before this because there were Bluetooth headsets before
yeah,
this for sure. I'd say
sure,
at
sure,
least 10 years ago, if not
yeah,
15. This has been kind of a running gag. Like it's I don't want to say crazy, but like are they having issues or not walking down the street? It's definitely something we think about when someone's talking very loudly. Perhaps they're having a phone conversation.
right,
Perhaps they're having a conversation with themselves. Hard to say. We're at the point now where people walking down the street sort of tapping their
yeah,
headset. It's
yeah,
like an indicator, and
yeah,
and I don't think maybe AirPods Max are like a status symbol. I don't think AirPods are like a status symbol any longer. We're well past that.
right,
In fact, I think there's a bit of a backlash where the younger generation, sorry, Matt, younger than us, are going back to corded headsets because they find that They're more of a status symbol to show that, like, yeah,
Right.
I don't need to worry about batteries or whatever.
That
But
and film cameras.
yeah, listen, I'm here for it. If there's an AI push on the like the EX side, like I kind of like the analog stuff now, but I'm wondering like what. Okay, so when I saw this, I was thinking maybe it's time to think about the AirPods Max, which is like the wrong decision, but I thought there's like a thing on the side, right, that you can tap or scroll, or like there's some sort of there's something over
I don't
there,
know.
like a crown. There's some way to
Oh
handle
yeah,
you
yeah,
use
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And what I was thinking was like, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to shake my head though? Like, is there a headset that could have a yes no
Yeah.
button, like a Boolean switch or toggle or something?
Right.
That's what I want actually. Give me more
Yeah.
physical buttons. I
Yeah.
realize that more of them mean it's like it's hard to repair that kind of stuff, but I'm here for the physical buttons. I do
Yeah.
not want to be randomly shaking my head walking down the street like no, 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 no. And then people are thinking, is Ryan having a bad day or is he talking to his
Yeah.
iPhone? We don't know. We could
Yeah.
ask him, but we're not going to.
Right.
It's just terrible. It's just terrible. Yes.
Well, some other things that I did like in
Hmm.
there was, or one of them was in maps, the hiking
Yes.
routes.
Now, someone in this household was very disappointed that it could only work with Apple Maps. But again, this is
Oh,
WWDC, right? Like, yes. I
yeah.
think
I
when
mean, there
you've
was
got
a
all of your
time when
maps,
Google Maps was better, but app time seems to have been long since passed, like years ago.
yeah, I think the issue is that again, speaking more from my partner than for myself, if you've got like years of history of tracking,
Oh,
like
okay,
where
yeah,
you've been, you've got all your trails and
right.
stuff like that. Porting between the two is maybe
Okay,
the
yeah,
story here. Is like how do you switch
yeah,
from Google Maps over to Apple Maps? But I agree. Like even the 3D views on Apple Maps have come a long way.
yeah.
They're quite nice. It's
But I
tough. Yeah,
use,
go
yeah, I
ahead.
mean, I have a subscription to All Trails.
We were
You know
just
that?
talking about that.
Yeah.
Specifically, All
Okay.
Trails is an app
Yeah.
that's like the best, basically. I don't think there's anything better
Right.
than that. Yeah.
But if I don't have to pay the whatever
I
30, 40
know.
bucks a year
Did
for
they
All Trails,
did they Sherlock
that
All Trails? It
yeah.
feels like they
I mean, it
Sherlocked All
seems like there
Trails.
were a few others. There was the grammar checking
Oh,
in all
Grammarly.
the
Yeah.
apps that use the standard text input
Right.
stuff. So Grammarly, Language Tool, and a bunch of others. Pro Writing Aid.
And
Although those are
we should
not
say
just
what.
on
Yeah, we
Mac.
should say what Sherlocked is. Sorry, I just. Okay, so maybe I can explain. Because this is a little bit before my time, so you may know this a little bit better than I did. So my
Mhm.
understanding is Apple OS didn't have a search app back in the day, and
Right.
there was a company that came, something Sherlock. They created an app that was
Sherlock was the app.
Sherlock was the app. Okay, and it had like a little maybe a magnifying glass to search. I think was
Mhm.
specifically the thing that a lot of
Yeah.
people had a problem with. So Sherlock had a little magnifying glass. There were many ways to bring it up. I think it was pretty easy to pull it from the app menu. It'd have a little
Yep.
shortcut in there. And what happened was Apple released a piece of software that did exactly this, and also had like the same loop or
Yeah.
magnifying glass for it. And yeah, what was it called? Spotlight.
Spotlight is the feature.
Spotlight is what Sherlock, and it feels like a
Yeah.
lot of these new features that Apple are releasing
Yeah.
now seem to have Sherlocked other apps like
Right.
AllTrails or Grammarly.
Or the calculator. The
The
calculator versus needing something like
iCalc,
pCalc or Solver or
yep.
any of these other
Oh yeah,
tools.
Solver with OU, right?
Yeah.
What's that? What's the one that's like actually good though? Shoot, it was like a launch partner as a ChatGPT app as well. It's like a
Hmm.
very good math app that's on Android and iOS as well as. Oh
I don't
shoot,
know. pCalc is the one I've always used.
yeah, yeah. There's, it's not Abrams or something. It's somebody's name basically. That's
Hmm.
like a calculator app.
Hmm. And then another one that was, potentially not. I mean, Sherlock. I mean, Sherlock. It was a Mac only app, and then there's all these other apps that are not Mac only. So the Grammarly and all these are not just on the Mac; they're on lots of platforms.
Right.
The same thing with what else? Oh, the hiking routes. It's not just on one platform.
Right.
So it's not really the same thing. But another one that's kind of in the same bucket would be One Password and the new password tool, which
Right.
looks pretty. It looks like it has potential. Now that said, there are lots of password
Mm-hmm.
manager that have potential that end up not being that nice. LastPass or
Some of them have been breached, which is like
So
the
yeah,
major
yeah,
concern here. So Apple
yeah.
now has VPN. I mean VPN. Apple has a way of VPN. They have a privacy email generator because I think these are both
Hmm.
two businesses. VPN's a business. The private email is another business.
Yep,
And now we're getting to the password stuff, which is yet another business, but has been
yep.
it leaked at least a few times,
Hmm.
depending on the platform. I don't think One Password has, but LastPass definitely.
Yeah.
Wolfram Alpha was what I was thinking about a
Mm.
calculator. I
Oh,
don't
okay,
think
yeah,
Apple's there yet, but they're getting to the
yeah,
point where their calculator, instead of just being a calculator, is not only pCalc or Solver, but also getting into the Wolfram space, where you can
yeah.
ask like a natural language question and get an
Right,
answer.
right.
We're definitely getting to the point where they're expanding the apps a little bit
Yeah.
right now, as opposed to purchasing. Because when we're talking about weather, like, sorry, I'm on a real rant here about Sherlocking, but the what was the other app that they purchased? Dark Sky, or like the Dark
Mm,
Sky
mm,
API in the Apple Weather app
right,
is phenomenal now when asked for weather.
right,
Like either the same or better than Alexa, so it's hard for me to
right.
say why would I use a different company? I guess basically this is a lot of consolidation into the iOS
Yep.
ecosystem or the Mac OS ecosystem or the Watch OS
Yeah.
ecosystem. I didn't see a lot about Watch that I was interested in. I think there was some,
Yeah. I mean the vitals. Okay. I mean, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I see how that can be interesting.
automatically surfacing widgets. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
I thought one
cool.
of the things that was back on the phone
Hmm.
was the whole customization of the control center with third-party
Oh, I missed
widgets,
that. Okay, that does sound
as
pretty
well
handy.
as updating the two, on the lock screen. There's the icon for the flashlight and the camera, being able to swipe those out to other widgets or even third-party widgets.
Oh, if I
And
could start a real camera app, that would be
they chose an
amazing.
example of like Snapchat and something else, a quick edit tool,
Do people still
a
use
quick edit
Snapchat?
file.
Is this
I
is
don't
this a
know.
generational thing? They must be if this is part of the keynote, right? This this has got
But
to be a generational thing.
but then two that I thought were really interesting
Hmm.
were the Canon lens.
What?
So for doing the kind of the 3D parallax photos,
Yeah,
Canon on their R7 camera has a lens that has two lenses so you're able to create
I see it.
larger experiences that are using this kind of parallax kind of
Oh,
3D.
I I think my brain was going for a walk at that point because I was really excited about the
Yeah,
spatial photos in VR because
right,
of all the things in the Samsung VR that I really liked. My teammates laughed at me at the time,
right.
but I really did find therapeutic, like the panorama photos that you can like
Yep,
just slowly look at, especially if you can play audio at the same time.
yeah,
Legitimately relaxed me. It was like fooled my brain.
yeah.
My coworkers thought that this was hilarious. Uh, listen, I'm a little bit more hippie than most people. I didn't realize it's a special lens. This is phenomenal. Like I hate Canon.
Yeah,
I know that I'm on a roll of like companies I don't like on this
yeah.
podcast. I apologize, but where Canon went in terms of not allowing other lenses on their platform really rubbed me the wrong way. Having
Yeah.
gone to like a Canon event and tried out the R5, I think, which was a pretty cool camera,
Hmm.
and then realizing that I could only buy Canon lenses and they had to be RF, really rubbed me the wrong way, and I went Sony.
Mm.
This lens though, 85 millimeter f4.2 lens looks pretty cool, honestly, because
It,
that's like a living portrait for me. That's a right focal length to take a really cool shot.
and then there was the Black Magic camera,
Oh,
and format, like a newer format, I think.
okay, okay.
And so there was a
Format's the app
and
that I was thinking of. Okay.
no, not format an app, but a
Oh,
new form like image format
ah,
for doing the full expansive, 180-degree videos on the Vision Pro. And
fantastic.
so they were showing this Black Magic camera that's like this big Horkin camera, not a small camera, like a really big with
Hmm.
also the two. I think it had two lenses on the front. I'm not. I can't. Maybe I'm mixing it up with the Canon lens, but so
Like,
that looked interesting.
and most people are using that app, right? The Blackmagic app. I still haven't tried it. In
The
order to get
Black
the
Magic, yes,
camera app.
cinema camera app or what, something like that.
The one that
Yeah,
can record right to like a USB hard drive
yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. I feel like they've got a pretty good relationship between the two.
yeah.
I'm looking to see if there's another one. I'm not seeing any news about which camera it was. Oh, yes, I have found it. Okay, my apologies. Blackmagic camera for Vision Pro immersive video. It does in fact have two lenses, and this looks
Okay.
like a oh shoot, Ursa. This is an Ursa.
Oh yeah,
It is in fact an Ursa, confirmed. And it will shoot
yeah,
Ursa 12K, which is doesn't sound like a lot, but is what you need actually for Vision Pro because
right.
it's two
And well,
4K res, right?
apparently on the Tyler Stallman coverage, it was saying, "Oh, well, now it makes sense that Blackmagic announced this 17K format
Oh,
at NAB recently, but they didn't really say what it was for, and now it's all kind of coming together."
gotcha.
That Tyler Stallman one was pretty good.
Yeah, I should watch it.
The other video that I so there was the iJustine one, which was apparently
I
just
love
a
iJustine, but iJustine's like so positive about Apple stuff,
yeah,
unfortunately.
and she was so that was a video of she was invited on stage at the at after one of the events after the main keynote,
That's really
and
cool.
she did an interview with um
Craig
CEO guy.
Farigi,
What's the CEO's name?
Tim Cook.
Tim Cook. Thank you, Tim Apple. Um,
Yes.
and so they had that was the video, and then Snazzy Labs did a kind of a good overview of all of the things without so it was pretty excited about some things,
Okay.
but one that was kind of entertaining but super negative,
Was it Linus?
which was huh
Was it Linus
the
Tech Tips?
fire ship
Oh yes,
did
he's
one on
so
the
sardonic.
AI.
I love the Fireship videos.
Oh my god, yeah,
I think our chat are also fans of Fireship whenever we bring it up. But
yeah.
yes, I've also had some people at work start watching it too. It's because it's so fast and so to the
Yeah.
point, as well as the memes.
But
Sometimes I
then
have
you
to
go
watch them a
back
couple
to
times.
his older videos, and they're like really slow and
And boring.
just a normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same voice,
Yes.
but slower and normal.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, he at some point he discovered this fast thing worked really well for him, and that's when the video watch time goes way up,
We should spend a
and
whole episode on this, but I feel like at
that's
some
his
point in
thing.
time he started Patreon and started listening to the Patreon patrons, and
Mm,
that it seems to have been like a real leg up on the video quality.
mm-hmm,
That again, this is my understanding, but it'd be good to go
mm-hmm.
through because he does have our chat's mentioned it twice. He's got a video where he talks about his method and how he makes the videos that I
Oh
have yet
really?
to watch that I probably should. And then we should probably drill into it because I would probably learn something from this. I think you
Yeah,
would too. Um,
yeah.
I'm kind of leading us into checkouts a little bit because we're over time, but I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like sometimes it's good to get like an outside opinion on how to plan your content or
Yes.
like think about ways of content. And one thing you mentioned a long time ago was pip decks, and they finally
Ah
arrived. Sorry,
yes.
this is probably really too bright here. Um, I got two. Yeah, there we go. Idea Tactics was the one you recommended. It was on
I have the
sale.
storyteller one.
Perfect. I should probably grab that too. The other one that I got was Laws of UX. For the chat, I know, as we say in Canada, SFA about UX design, which is not very much. The first one is heck F all. I don't know a lot about UX design, basically. So I figured if this is something completely different that talks about the psychology of UX design,
Uh-huh.
maybe I'd be interested because I have opinions with
Yeah.
zero like grounding in fact. So it'd be good for me to actually think about the
Hmm.
UX design. Like this part of the product really annoys you. Maybe you can pick up this thing to put real
Right.
words to it when you're talking to the program
Yeah.
manager instead of saying, "Hey, this sucks, make it better." Doesn't really help as a in a
Right.
professional setting. So basically, all this to say, thank you very much. I've gone through two idea tactics cards. For those in the audience who do create content or think about making content, I think these are really good, not just ways of unblocking, but ways of organizing your ideas into a way that make more sense for the person receiving the idea, which is something
Right.
I don't often think about. Specifically in the PDF, there's it's a flow chart of like you start here and then you get to the end like you're really ready and it will go through like, do you think you have enough new ideas for the audience to pick up? No?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go to the side, pick one of these purple cards. And then it's like, hey, do you think these slides look
Mm.
good? No? okay, let's go one of the design cards, and it will keep going through and whittling you down to
Mm-hmm.
basically cause you to re-review some of your content, which is where I really suck. So I'll have a
Mm.
good idea and maybe one or two things that you could learn, but then there's going to be
Right.
a whole hour of having to deal with me and listening to me, unfortunately. It's like a webinar or a talk or like even a question period.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's 30 minutes and you asked 15 minutes of questions. That 30 minutes could be really boring if I'm having a bad
Right.
day or you're having a hard time hearing me because I speak really quickly. I thought this was fantastic, and I'm going to get
So which
more.
one was that? That was
This
the
is the
idea one?
idea tactic. So it's like you've got an
Yeah.
idea, and
Yeah.
generally I would go to from idea to slides, and we're done. Like wash the hands kind of thing. I'll review. Listen, I'll have dry runs. I may or may
Yep.
not take the feedback, but I'll have the dry runs, and then I'll go in and produce it. And generally, what I found is if I do something once, twice, three times, four times, it will get better iteratively as I'm
Yeah.
going through it. What they're saying is instead of doing this four times, why don't you do four iterations before you produce
Right.
the content, or maybe seven or eight passes
Right.
of this workflow to kind of just nudge little areas into getting things better. And I was sold. Like this is actually a
Yeah.
really good idea. I think some of my teammates are already doing this, which makes me
Yeah.
ashamed because I didn't realize this is something you could do. Like, do you think you're ready? Like, don't
Right.
pass go. Look at these steps first. I was fantastic. The UX one I haven't opened up yet.
Yeah.
I feel like the next time I have a design complaint about our platform, perhaps we've moved the navigation to the left hand side or done something like a regorg of all the icons in our app. Maybe I'll have better
Right.
words to talk about how to do it. We have done that. Again, my opinions don't represent my employers. Generally, I feel like buttons should stay where they are for years, as exemplified by my opinions on the UX ribbon bar in Office 2000
Right.
2003.
Right.
But yes, all this to say, I think these are
So
great.
you
Great, great, great.
bought them yourself?
I did.
You didn't expense.
No, no.
I think I think I
They're on sale.
expensed. I
Yeah.
think I expensed it.
I
So
feel like honestly because the team was really interested in it, I feel like this is one of those things that would make like a great Christmas gift
yeah.
or a great thing to just buy for a department or something
Because
to
I
stick
think
around.
the big downside to these, I mean, it's a deck of cards, and it's a deck of cards filled with information that's in cheaper books,
Yes.
and yet this deck of cards costs what, $100 or something like that, or
Or like 80 on sale Canadian
yeah.
is what I've paid for like yeah, both
So I
of them.
mean, it's a little bit, you know, like you look at the ads like,
And they're
there's no
printed
way
in
I'm gonna
China.
get that
And
thing,
I don't mean the Chinese printing's bad, but I'm Canadian like
but it's
and some of
cheaper.
this business north of the border. Yeah, but the
Yeah.
quality is not that great. Is all I'm saying. Just in
Oh,
terms of the
okay.
printing press around the world, China's okay, but there are definitely better places to print things.
These are, I mean, I'd say that these
They're
cards
pretty
are
high quality.
extremely high quality.
Yes, yes, which is probably why they cost so much. And all I'm
Yes.
saying is you can get the same quality for cheaper, probably from elsewhere, because you're not paying for the logistics.
Right. Right.
Please, some Canada,
Yeah.
send us some of your money. We need it. I think the company's from the UK, so maybe that's why it made more
Mm-hmm.
sense. I don't know. But yes, like honestly,
Cool.
I'm sold. And everyone I've talked
Cool.
to who have wanted, like, there's a lot of people who have wanted to purchase Piptex who have not,
Right.
and they're all asking me like, "Hey, are they worth it?" And like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think they are actually. I wouldn't recommend buying all of them, but if
No.
you're in sort of the idea space, the strategy
Right.
space, like the strategy one, I think is probably the next one I'll pick up, but it's not on
Yep.
sale, so I'm just waiting.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I guess
Well,
all this to say, like, if you want to buy these, sign up for the mailing list, wait for a
yeah.
sale, purchase them on sale. Is
Yeah.
kind of the method I took.
I don't. I mean, I don't have a specific thing that I can recommend. At least I haven't gotten anything recently. Oh, actually,
Did your
sorry.
iPad finally come in? Oh, we lost him.
My iPad came in,
Okay, there he is.
and 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 it is spectacular.
Fantastic.
Um, I got the nano display,
Yep.
so yeah, that meant you had to get the 1 terabyte or two
Yep. Yep.
terabyte version. Um, which also gets you the faster or the one extra core, and which actually comes up useful in Final Cut. And Final Cut generally is not that great an app, but there's a feature in Final Cut that is just that was I was able to add something to one my last video
Hmm.
that I couldn't do before, and it was just kind of this um just the way I mix the pen with the video that you could kind of do, but not in a way that matched the video as much. It just
Right.
it made it a whole lot better. And this screen is incredible. Now, some people will say, "Oh, well, it attracts thumbprint or like
Sure.
fingerprints." Sure, but when you're looking at it, you don't see the fingerprints, and so
Did,
unless you look at it like on the
hmm
side, and so I don't really care about that.
did it come with a
But
free cleaning cloth? This is very
it
important to
did.
me.
It came with this cloth, which of course I'm gonna lose that cloth.
Of course
So
you are. But that is a similar, if not the same cloth as the one that came with the screen that was really expensive, right? Because I feel
right,
like this is their best display now. In fact, this
yeah,
might be better than their pro display, which is a lot of money. And they give
it
you a free cloth, which is,
yeah.
that's saying something.
It is an amazing device. Now, some people say, well, it's a same processor as a laptop, so can it replace a laptop? No, it's an iPad,
Right.
and it's like, well, it's too expensive. Well, don't buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's like it's not going to replace your laptop. It's not going to. It's a different. It's a different function than a
Right.
laptop. I was like, well, I want it to be more like a laptop. Great, they got MacBooks for that.
Right.
Don't get an eye. And I mean, something. Well, it's not a very pro tool. I don't know any professionals that have one tool that they use for everything. They have a collection of tools, and so use the iPad when you need to do iPad kind of things, and a laptop when you need to do laptop things. So I don't understand those arguments. Um,
I listen. This is a very expensive Cintiq, but I think
sure,
Cintiqs are just about the same price, and
yeah,
then you get a whole operating system with it
yeah.
as well. The Cintiq running Windows is absolutely something I've wanted for years, but I think this is a better purchase, which is difficult.
The
Like if you don't understand that, like when you're drawing all day, it's important to have a device that's dedicated to it, that's good and fast and awesome. This is that device for me.
yeah. One regret is the
Yeah, yeah.
whatever with the keyboard.
Hmm.
I could have skipped that.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, yeah, it's okay. It's a good enough keyboard. I mean, it's kind of like it's great, but uh, but I ended up wanting to use the pen more, and it's not a really great platform for using the pen on the
Right.
iPad.
Right. How is
Um,
the trackpad? Because it's bigger now, right?
oh, that's great.
That's
That's
good.
great. As a trackpad goes, it's great.
Yeah, the keyboard would drive me up
Um,
the wall. Mushy keys are. I have a hard time typing
well,
with
yeah,
mushy
it's
keys.
it's the current MacBook Pro keyboard, that kind of style,
Hmm.
rather than the previous one that a lot of people complained about,
Oh,
which
okay.
I thought was the best of. I mean, the keyboard that was on it from like 2016 to 2020 or so.
Right.
Um, the that people would complain about dust getting under there, so it was stall the keyboard, which the previous one did far more than the one that they complained about.
Right.
Um, I thought that was the best keyboard. That was like the most like a. It felt kind of mechanical. Felt like my Ergodox keyboards and all the other mechanical keyboards.
Interesting.
It
Okay, I
had
should
that
try
kind
it.
of
I
feel.
should try. I feel like I
But
tried the one before that, and I really didn't like it. It felt like
the
bad mushy
earlier
dust.
one was like super mushy. The
Yeah.
original kind of
Ugh.
keyboard
It
mushy,
just
like
gives me like the
oh
tactile kind of ick.
yeah.
I don't know. It just feels gross.
I'm not.
Especially like the
I'm
fingerprints would get on it, and then it would like feel slippery and mushy,
yeah.
and it's just all types are wrong.
The trackpads have always been amazing, but the keyboards,
Yeah. Now,
yeah,
do you like the way it holds it off the table a little bit? Because I'd say compared to a laptop, that's one plus it's got is that it gives you it's like an inch and a half
yeah.
of rise.
I mean that's great, but um yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm
Have you
not.
taken any
I'm not.
photos with it yet?
No, I don't take photos with an iPad. That's just
Well, it's kind of like a view camera in that like you could put a cloth over your head and like
yeah,
look at it
sure.
because it's a nice big screen, so it allows
And
you to really look at a photo.
yeah,
I know I get flack for this, but like I honestly think photos make sense to me as you
right,
get older, and I'm getting older. So like having that big, massive viewfinder to me is pretty cool
right,
because I can
right.
like move it in and out. But
Yep.
also, it does look ridiculous taking photos with an
You
iPad.
look ridiculous. Yeah, and just some people are all excited about the fact that the camera moved from the top when it was in portrait mode to the top in its landscape mode. It's like,
Right.
okay, yeah, I guess that's interesting to some people, but I
It,
don't.
I do see
I'm not.
tourists taking photos with iPads all the time,
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, I saw him on the
all the time.
cruise 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in Alaska. A whole bunch of people holding it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I say this. I'm trying to be charitable because I do think it's ridiculous for sure. But the people that I see with the iPads, I think that is their only computer. Like
sure.
they may have a phone, but for them the
Yeah.
phone is not a computing device because it's
Right.
too small. So for them their computer is the
Yeah.
iPad, which is
Yeah. And I think for
interesting.
as your one computer, like the lower end iPads is great.
Not pretty good,
It's
right? Yeah.
it's amazing. Um, I think I mean if the iPad Pro is too expensive, don't get it. If you have an iPad Pro that's an M1 or M2, there's no reason to update to I mean
N-
iPads
Now listen, Scrooge McDuck. Since you're swimming in gold coins here, have you thought about the AirPods Max like I have?
no.
I don't similarly swim in gold coins, but if you've got the money, do you think the AirPods Max are worth a purchase?
No.
Yeah, me either. It's a tough call.
I mean
It's a tough call.
I think if I was still traveling as
Right?
much, may I don't know if I would.
Maybe compared to like the
Um,
Sony's, the MX5s or MX4s, I think it's tough.
you know, I switched. I used to have, Bose. I had a number of
QC35. Yep.
Bose headphones, um, and they were amazing. As they were better when they had two AA batteries or AAA batteries,
Yes.
because on the there were oftentimes I would be on a 12 to 14 to 17-hour flight.
Right.
Often when going from Amsterdam down to Australia or
Right.
to uh, all over one from Dubai to Bangkok. I mean, those are long flights, and then the thing goes dead. Like, okay, now I gotta recharge it, and sometimes the plane has a charging port, and sometimes it doesn't, and
Yep.
um, I I was so much easier on it. I could just plop in two extra AA batteries,
Right.
and replace the batteries.
Yeah, and I'm sure they did it
Um,
for weight. I'm sure there's less weight on
yeah.
your head without
Oh, I
them,
mean,
but
there's an
I agree with you.
environmental concern to switch over to rechargeables. Sure, I get that, but
You can recharge
it,
double A's. Let me remind the
yeah,
world on a
yeah,
regular basis that yes,
yeah,
chargeable alkaline or chargeable nickel
yes,
metal hydride still exists for AA and AAA.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think replacing the battery with a rechargeable, non-user serviceable
right,
battery is
yeah,
necessarily environmentally friendly. It makes more business sense because that means you're going
and
to buy
then
another one. But
there's the newer Sonos Ace headphones
right,
that
which are well reviewed. Yeah,
look like the AirPods Max, but a little bit more expensive.
more expensive than the AirPods
I
Max.
think they're I think the AirPods are the cheaper one,
Wow,
or the budget friendly one.
wow. That with
I think that's
this
what
is
I
the
saw,
era we're in.
and some of
Okay.
the reviews I saw were like, it's not that good.
Well, it's Sonos tuned. So if you're okay with like Sonos or whatever
Right.
that other brand is
And
Bose.
it doesn't
If
have
you're
the
okay with that toning,
Wi-Fi like the Sonos speakers does, so
oh shoot,
some of the switching out doesn't happen as seamless. I
uh,
don't know.
that's not good to hear.
I'm not
I
gonna
do
get
really
one, so
like the continuity when it works. When like with the
hmm
AirPods, but when it doesn't work, it's actually
yeah, yeah,
incredibly annoying because I'll go upstairs,
yeah,
put in my AirPods. My work computer downstairs will wake up in the middle of the night and
yeah.
do whatever it was doing before it went to sleep. It's awful.
Yesterday or last week, when my connection died and I came back audio only,
Hmm.
and I was wondering why it was so weird, is because my phone automatically hooked up to the iMac or to the
Oh.
Mac Mini as a external microphone. It's like, and I didn't even know that happened. And so that continuity stuff is like sometimes, and I have I don't know if I've figured it out yet, but I've got my MacBook Pro over there and the Mac Mini here. Almost every time I turn on that computer or turn plug that computer in and I move the mouse, it's like I see no activity. It's because the mouse is moving on this Mac Mini,
On a
and I
virtual
keep
screen off to the
removing
right.
it. I keep
Yeah,
removing it on there, and it
yeah,
keeps joining back up.
yeah. Especially if it wants to go into multi-computer
Yeah.
mouse and keyboard mode, and then
Ugh,
your cursor's all the
drives
way
me
on the right
nuts.
in another computer, which is like, thank you. I'm trying
Yeah.
to log in. I have typed my password into a work Slack as a result of not understanding that I was yes, in fact, like the cursor was in the password field,
Right.
it wasn't filling it in, and I hit enter,
Right.
and it went into a chat, and I had to change my password immediately
Yeah.
because of this. But
Yeah.
yes, when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it is
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
annoying. I can see how this would be
So
frustrating with sorry,
so
somewhat
love my iPad,
consumers.
but two other picks,
Hmm.
I guess, sort of picks. One was actually from the keynote.
Okay,
Um, was I saw there was the one of the commercials when they talked about Apple TV Plus or whatever,
right,
and they showed the a little bit of the next season of Silo.
right.
So Silo next version coming soon. So that looks awesome.
It does.
And then I saw just in the last couple of days there's a new. Now I'm not a big gamer,
Right.
but one of the games that I do remember loving,
Hmm.
which was like the first game that kind of was the killer app for the CD-ROM was Myst, and and Riven was
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
sequel to
Riven
that.
remake, right?
And there's a Riven remake that comes out in a couple weeks.
Now, there is a game
Looked pretty
like
nice.
Myst and like Riven that came
Oh
out
yeah,
recently.
Witness.
Yes, have you? I have not played it. Have you played The Witness?
I have. I tried. I did not go far.
Okay, I also did not go far. I thought the atmosphere and the music were great, but I was just really
Yes.
bored right away. I think
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and that's what when I saw the Riven remake, that's what I thought about. I was like, is this going to hold
I
up?
was
Because
actually
Riven, when I
thinking
was
that too.
younger, I loved because you put in it was a 4 CD-ROMs. It's like a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
back in the day, and it was a lot. Were they static images as well? So there was
Well, there
just
was a static image with one little,
right
because they could only have a
the
small video at the time. So
yeah
it was one part of it was moving, but everything else looked like, I mean, it was like stuff in the distance, so you didn't know that it wasn't
right
moving, and it was just like perfectly blended into that image. And
right
so, I mean, Mist was incredible at the time,
right
because you didn't really have super high resolution screens to begin with. So
right. It,
it was so
yeah, yeah. All
so
these things
cool.
you're saying are like, this is why I think I'm setting myself up for disappointment because I
Mm.
feel like a lot of the things when they're up-resed, they
Yeah,
lose. It's like your brain is filling in the blanks and making stuff
yeah,
more interesting, or like
yeah,
something that had a soundtrack that was like an 8-bit like
yeah,
chiptune track. Somehow years later, I remember these being symphonic. But when I listen to them now, they're terrible. And it's just that
yeah.
my imagination was doing a lot more of the work in the past.
Right,
And I feel like Mist and Riven are one of those things
right.
where the Witness just had too much detail. There's too much going
Yeah,
on. And I really didn't need to have a completely 3D environment to walk around in and
right,
stumble on. I would just rather go from one puzzle to another.
right,
So for me, if there's nothing novel in the travel from one spot
right.
to another for the puzzles, then why do I need to travel?
Yeah,
What does this do for me? It does nothing. Is it more
yeah.
immersive, less immersive? I don't know.
I mean, I guess I felt I downloaded whatever the more recent was it Assassin's Creed, I think,
Right.
on I put that on the iPad as not the, I have Mirage, is it, or no, that
I
one
haven't
of them is the one that comes out soon that's like in Japan,
okay.
but the other one is more the traditional story, I think. And I was like starting to play it because you can play it at the beginning for free, thinking, huh, they were talking about the graphics being so amazing on this. Like, there's just too much. There's the lack of detail is so precise that you notice the lack of detail on some of these. Where you should see more detail. I
Right.
just wasn't. It's
Yes,
like,
not
oh, this
immersive.
is. I
Now,
was. I
sorry,
was thinking this
we're
would be
way off in
better.
the weeds now in games, but have you tried Baldur's Gate 3 on Apple?
No, I have
I've
not.
heard this is
No,
quite
I
good, but
heard
to me
that.
it looked like a really big time sink. Like I don't have 120 hours to spend on this game. I'm so sorry. It looks
Yeah,
amazing, and I'll watch somebody playing it, but I just don't have that kind of time right now. I'm sure I will later on in life.
Baldur's Gate. Yes,
3, so it's 112 gigabytes. It's massive, basically.
really.
It's a tenth of your terabyte on your iPad.
Wow. Oh,
It's a lot for a game, and it's a lot for a game that I think is better played with friends. And maybe this is the issue: is that I do have a friend group that wants to play it with me, but I feel like I missed the boat because I didn't play it when they were playing it, and now they're on their third or
hmm.
fourth or fifth playthrough.
Of course, now I'm looking for it on the iPad and I'm not finding it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on the iPad. I think it's on the Mac.
Oh,
My
oh,
apologies.
okay, on the Mac. Okay,
Yeah,
that would make sense.
yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty big game. But it's we're getting to the point now where these games that I think are
Well,
more
I'm glad I have a 1 terabyte iPad then.
yes.
Except
Exactly.
no.
One last thing, though, sorry, that we didn't talk about was
One
the
last thing.
ability
One more
to.
thing.
Yes, one more thing. To share the screen between your iOS device and your Mac. I don't know. Maybe you could play something on your Mac and have it on your iPad or something like that. But
Hmm.
finally, we can get screen sharing without a third party app. This is one of the last Sherlocked features, I guess, is to be able to see the iOS
Right.
screen mirrored on your
Well,
Mac natively. Like
but
you
you've
can.
had that.
Did you? Because it didn't look like it did. I think it's slightly different in the new
So
one.
it's. I mean, I guess I'm not sure you could control the
Yes.
iPad screen from because you always had that in QuickTime.
Right.
So in
This one.
QuickTime, you can say start a new movie, and then you could choose from the list your iPad or iPhone
Yes. So
from the
this one you can
list.
interact with. So it will
You
mirror
can
it
interact
as
with,
well
right?
as interact with.
And and on your phone or whatever device you're interacting with, it is it looks like it's still locked. And so it's not just whatever's
Oh.
on the screen, it is you're interacting with the device
Oh.
rather than just what's on the screen, which and the QuickTime thing was just what's on the screen right
It
now.
was kind of like a VNC feed or something like that.
Right.
Is what it felt like. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this way you are interacting with it. But that wrinkle about it being locked actually is pretty important because I was
Yeah.
thinking about that. Yeah, this is actually quite handy.
Yeah.
All right, and that's all I had for like announcements and checkouts. Sorry, we went
Yeah.
way over this time, but yes, I think there was
We
quite a bit
did.
to discuss. We
Which was
actually watched the
interesting.
resort, like the material this time. It's amazing.
Yeah. This we said we should switch over to picks at like 10 minutes before the hour,
Right, and
and
we're
we
still
still
talking.
went 30 minutes after or 20.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you very much, folks. Hopefully the audio is better this time. We did a
Yes.
little bit of check before we started, but yes.
Yeah, we said, "Oh, we should do an audio check." And then we
Then I had a shower.
then one of us had a shower. And we showed up we got on like 2 minutes before, and then I went to press go, and it said no. Okay, go. No. Go. No. And then we switched over to I switched over to using it on the browser rather than their installed app,
Oh,
and the whole UI changed.
okay.
So I don't
Interesting.
know what's it's like,
It seems
and
to
then
have
it went
worked.
to a different stream versus the stream I set up.
We're getting there. Matt and Riley,
Yeah,
Matt and Ryan really have a chat here. I just noticed the title
yes,
that you put in. Perfect.
yeah, yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for the comments. It was awesome. Yes, Matt is a
It was.
complete Apple fan now and no longer likes Microsoft
I
after
don't
working
know
with them.
about that.
I think the conclusion here is that we really like tech. If that's something
We
that you
like
didn't
tech,
realize.
and but we're I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Apple does that is really stupid.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that Microsoft does that's really cool as well. Honestly, we
Yep,
try to
yep,
be unbiased, but yeah, it's hard.
yeah, cool. All right. Let's see. I need to find the stop button.
Do a
I think
dance.
it's over here.
Stop button.